Welcome to the next episode of Up for Discussion. This is the NRHA Derby Finals preview. As usual, I want to thank our main channel sponsor, Tricked Out Spook, for their continued support. I know breeding season's almost over, but if you're looking in the future, I really suggest that you look at Foals R Us and breed to Tricked Out Spook. Great-minded horses, great talented horses, and I've had good fortune with all of mine, including one I'm going to show in a couple weeks at Raining by the Bay at the Derby there. Speaking of that, I'm actually going to give a little channel update before we jump into the preview proper. For July, I'm a little dry on material. I will be out of town, but I'm going to take my recording stuff with me for the 3 weeks I'm in Woodside, California for 2 horse shows back-to-back. And I have an idea for some stuff that I want to do recording-wise with analyzing the horses that I think will be shown at the Run for the Million in August and doing some run and just commentating over some runs, not marking them or anything, just showing you why those horses are strong and why they've been picked by the certain riders. It's an idea I've had for a little while, and I'm finally getting around to it, and I figure the month leading up to, or the 6 weeks leading up to Raining by the Bay will be a good time to put that series together. Obviously, the guys and gals that I know what they're riding, or I think I know what they're riding, will be done first, and the decisions that will be made later will be the ones that come up later. So with that out of the way, there will be a special one also that I'm going to start with, which I'm going to analyze the best run that I ever saw Tricked Out Spook make, and I was there in person, and I'll do that as kind of a test run to go forward and see how everybody likes it. So without further ado, contact Foals R Us for any breeding information on Tricked Out Spook, trickedoutspook.com. All the information is there. And I want to thank them one more time, as usual. So, going forward, let's talk about the news from the Derby. I'm going to start actually with the thing I noticed in the Open prelims. I noticed in the non-pro, but it's more obvious in the Open where the horses are a little, not necessarily higher caliber, but the horse and rider combinations are more consistently high caliber. The heat and humidity really affected a lot of these horses there, from my personal viewpoint. And this will tie into my second point that I'll make in a second. The horse quality is the same as it was at the Derby, or the same as it was at the NRBC, same as it was at Cactus, and we see lower scores. It's not because the judging is any tighter, it's the horses are not performing as well, they're making more mistakes. I think that is a heat and humidity thing because it was so drastically increased recently back in Oklahoma. I'm guessing that's what knocked a lot of these horses down, and it made preparation a little harder for the guys. That being said, for having 2 first-time judges in the chairs there, I thought that they were extremely good. Some people might call it tight. I don't think it was tight. I think, personally, and this is totally my opinion, I think that they were very consistent with what they liked. Each judge had a different high score in the first go-round. And each one had one that they were a little different than the rest of the crew on, and that's okay. That's actually what we want to see. They used their spread. We got to see different things, and in the averages, I think they all worked out. My number 3 thing goes back to the non-pro from last night, or it'll be tonight when I'm recording this, last night when you guys see this on Saturday morning. Gina Schumacher is starting to run away with the non-pro division like Mandy McCutcheon used to. I'm wondering how long it'll be till we start hearing some complaints about that. As far as I'm concerned, obviously there's no rules being broken or anything like that, so that we're not even going to discuss that part of it. The girl works as hard as anybody in the industry, and yes, she's fortunate to be in a situation where she can do it, but you don't get where she's at without working that hard. I love the fact that she's got that many good horses, and she's showing on that competitive of a level, and you've seen her go and compete with the boys, so with the Open guys, and gals. So I think the non-pros at the high level, that's where it used to be Mandy. I think Gina is who you got to get around now, and that's not necessarily a great thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think she's a hell of a showman, and we'll see that continue on. My next point, I'm going to go down through a few of the horses, but I'm going to just give you straight up like I did in the prelim thing before the prelim preview. Casey Deary is my favorite. On downright amazing. I know he was bottom hole back in. He had a big whoopsie in that one lead change. Casey will have that lined out. He's too good of a showman to let something like that happen twice in a row. That horse is still as freaky of a stopper and turner as anything there. And I'll bet you after a week off that thing's lined out. So I'm going to go through and cover a few of the horses kind of in the order of the ones that I think have a better shot at winning. Obviously, it's a finals. Anybody can go in and make a big run. But I'm going to go through. The first horse I think everybody should watch. And I'm a little biased because I've become friends with him recently, or more recently. But Jordan Larson and I Shine at Night, the way that horse stopped when Jordan bought him and he's starting to turn like one of his, that's a horse that you need to keep your eyes on. There's two things that you'll want to watch for with that horse is that he gets shut off on his turnarounds because he's starting to turn so hard, which has not been a problem for him this year. And the other is that being early, that Jordan pushes him as much as he needs and doesn't get too conservative. Those are the two things that I see, especially because it's the Derby. And mind you, it's hard to know how hard you're going to have to run and not running beyond a mistake. Being early, it's hard to push that. It's more difficult to push as hard as you need to, not knowing what's going to happen behind you. That being said, I still think that's a really nice horse and a really good shot at winning this whole deal. Following that is Andrea and Mike Drop, the 4-year-old that was reserve in the stakes in the prelims. Once again, had a turn penalty, but I think that horse, although his stylistically he's not the modern head-down style, I think that horse is as good of a stopper and as physical of a turner as most of the field. There's a couple I think that go above it, but we're looking at something completely different with that one in terms of he doesn't look like one of Andrea's style, but he looks like one of Andrea's broken performance-wise. Continuing on into the second section, we have Jason Van Landingham and going to be big time. I've talked about this horse a lot. I think he's an exceptional physical talent. He's quick-footed in the turnaround. I still don't love the way he turns stylistically. That being said, the way he stops in circles and the way Jason shows him, you can't count him out. He's too good of a horse. Obviously, I believe he's the one that won the prelims. I think he was a 27.5. He was either a 27 or 27.5. He was first or second in the prelims. It doesn't matter. He was awesome. And the question is, can he go do it again? We've seen him do it back-to-back before. I think Jason's got a pretty good shot there. Next would be Matt Mills, stopping in Jersey. Although not my favorite of his horses, it's the one he made it back on. And this horse has been a finalist at Bolt Bet Majors before with previous riders. I think that Matt can put it together, and we could see him maybe surprise a few people here. That being said, not probably my favorite, but he's in the short list of horses that I think, and I would guess probably top 10 at minimum for that horse, as long as there's no silly mistakes like a step out of lead or anything like that. Obviously, at the end of the second section is Casey, and this is downright amazing. This is the horse if you made me pick one horse, gun to my head, this is the one I'm picking. This is the one I'm putting my money on. Like I've told you this before, he's amazing, lives up to his name. Casey will have the lead change thing cleaned up. He always gets that stuff fixed. This horse is too physically talented to not be awesome here. The question is the weather. The question is how hard he's been shown all year and how many great runs he's made back to back to back before the prelims run, and now we're going into the finals, so this is where the chips are on the table for him. There are ways that it doesn't work for him, but they're less than most of the others. Third section, we see Cade McCutcheon with his strongest horse in Varsity Blue, although both of his horses he's got back are very, very good. Actually, all three of his horses, but this one especially, I think, is his biggest chance to win it. And then also in the third section is Jason on Best Shine. And if I didn't pick Casey, this is my pick. I think this horse has been top 5, third, second, third, top 5 so many times at big events. I think it's time for this one to come out and win something. I would love to see this for this horse's sake. I would love to see him win a big prize like that, just because he's been so good for so long in an era where he's not had the luck fall his way with competition and such. So I'd love to see that work out for him. Following that, we're going to skip all the way down to the sixth section, and we have the horse that won the 4-year-old challenge or the 4-year-old stakes, and also won last year's Futurity, and that's Sean Flaherty and Andiamo. This mare is so cool. I liked her a lot better here in every maneuver except her left turn. I liked her better here than I did at the Futurity. She turned better at the Futurity to the left, I think, than the prelims. That being said, though, I think she circled better, and I think she stopped more consistent. And that's something to really be considered of. Her 226.5 was, whatever you want to say about it, it was one of the top 3 or 4 runs of the weekend. Even if you don't agree with the score, it was right up there, and it should have been. And this mare is a special animal that is looking like Sean's next great one. And I was honestly surprised to see her back this early, but at the same time, Sean's a great showman. He takes exquisite care of his horses, and this mare is physically talented enough to hang with anybody. We'll jump to the next section behind that, which I believe is the 7th section, and that is got 2 horses that I want to talk about, and this is the section that's 26 to 30, so it's near the end of the whole thing. Trevor Dare on the Spat Toy Boy gun, who I believe is his million horse. It's either him or Chick Dreamin' is the guess. This 7-year-old has been awesome for him back at Cactus, and I think he could be a threat again. Very good horse, very good chance to be dominant and have a run at it. I don't see Trevor winning it this year. I see Trevor being about in the 6th, 7th range. It would be if I had to guess, but man, he's mounted, and Trevor's a heck of a showman, so there it is. And the last horse in the 7th section, draw 30, is Andrea Fapani, Starjack Vintage. You've heard me talk about Starjack. I think he's the 3rd best horse in Andrea's string. He's the best one, or the most consistent one that Andrea brought to the Derby. And you can count on this horse being about a 224 to a 227. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to win this deal if the finals go the way I think it will. That being said, there's years where less than that won the deal, and if he's his 224 or 225 self, and nobody else gets to a 23.5, then yeah, we've got a winner on our hands, and this really good horse gets to finish off his Derby career with a big win. I've always said I never bet against Andrea, and I wouldn't bet against him, but he wouldn't be my favorite in this set. I could very well see Andrea being 2nd or 3rd on this horse, and still, and still right there, just barely short, but I don't see him winning it if I have to be making my predictions. And of course, we're going to save the toughest group for last. We've got 4 riders that I think are exceptional and all have a shot to win this thing. Craig on the GT Shooter horse that's owned by Bosky Ranch. He slipped in, and Craig is most dangerous when he slips in and everybody forgets about him. While this is not my favorite of his horses, I do think this is a really exceptionally good horse. And Craig will be smart, consistent, and he'll be in that 223-ish range, probably. And if anybody in that group that's going to try to be the 26s and 27s makes a mistake, then Craig is going to be right there to pick up the pieces and maybe win this thing. I see him being about kind of where I saw Trevor in that 6th, 7th place slot. After that is Casey Deary on his other one, 1030, the Futurity champion from 2 years ago. I think that this horse is as physically talented as Amazing. He's not always as consistent, and that's the difference, and that's why I put Amazing a level above him. That being said, a late draw, Casey fixing what went wrong in the prelims, slipping in just like he did. I see this horse being right there, and you could see Casey walking out with 2 top 5 checks with both horses, just like he did at the NRBC. Cade and his Wimpy, this MMB Sia Wimpy, that one is, once again, it's not my favorite of his horses, but he's been high on it at Cactus. He's been a finalist on it places. I see this going really well. And I didn't mention Cade's Trashy Quick horse. It's a 4-year-old. I don't know if it's going to be consistent enough to come back again with this group, but don't count him out. And the very last draw is Jason on his 3rd one, and that's Refalicious. As I said at the NRBC, it's probably his weakest one, but this horse likes to draw late and likes to draw last. I see him being on the outside edge of the top 10, like 8th, 9th, somewhere in that range. That being said, Jason might very well get all 3 of his horses in the top 10, which would be an incredible feat and an incredible payday. especially if he ends up winning it on one of the other two, or even winning it on this one, because this horse has the talent. It's just it hasn't been as solid as some of the others. So that's my finals prediction. If you're going to make me pick, Casey's my favorite. Jason on Best Shine would be my second choice. Probably Jason on Big Time. I'm going to be Big Time is my third choice. Andrea is my fourth. And Cade on Varsity Blue is my fifth. That being said, everybody I mentioned and everybody else in the finals has a great shot. This is as tough of a finals as we've seen in years. The scores may not reflect it, but the horse flesh is just as strong as it was at the NRBC. And the adversity of dealing with the heat is going to be one thing, but the long turnaround time between maybe got them a little more acclimated, maybe got them a little more set up to run, and gave you time to fix and school in between. So I'm expecting a really great finals on Saturday, which this video probably will get released Saturday morning, late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So that's all I have for you. Comment below with your picks. Everybody knows this. Like, share, subscribe to the video. Like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all on Sunday, late Sunday, early Monday, for my finals review. And then we'll start my July set of videos where I'm going to go through a bunch of runs and analyze some horses that are going to be at the Run for the Million. So in the meantime, everybody stay safe. Everybody enjoy the Derby tomorrow night. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Thanks.